All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of A Sip of Knowledge. This time with guests Marty Duffy and Lou Bryson. No Liz Rhoades
Oh,
this
hi.
week. She is on vacation, but we do have special guests Noelle and Jay DiPrizio of Chicago Distilling Company here. I'll let your hosts give an extended, more formal introduction to them in just a moment. But before we get started, just as always, want to point out a couple of ways you can interact with your hosts and their guests today during the show. So on your right, there is a chat window. Feel free to say hello. Let us know where you're joining us from around the world. At the bottom of the screen, there's a little button that says Ask a Question. So if you have any questions during the show, just enter them in down there. I'll be keeping an eye out for those throughout the show today. And last but not least, feel free to invite your friends to join us. There's a share button at the top that makes that really easy. But with that said, Marty and Lou, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Will. And with winter coming up, just a little helpful tip: don't eat yellow snow. All right, take it from someone who knows. All right, hi everyone. My name is Martin Duffy. I'm a former senior master of whiskey for Diageo, 14 glorious years, followed by 18 less glorious years as the
months.
Actually 18 months. even that much more less glorious. As the national brand ambassador for Benedictine. That's probably what you know me from.
The pause that does not refresh.
No. And eight glorious years as the as co-producer of the Chicago Independent Spirit Expo, which, by the way, will be this year on November 1st. I'm not involved, so please, no cards or letters. Reach out to Dave Schmier at Schmier Enterprises. And then, what else? Oh, and 7 glorious years as sole brand representative for, I've been so many times.
Like the fish.
The Glencairn Crystal for all of North America. You'll see me on a dog sled in Canada. A whole bunch of crystal. All right, Lewis.
Bunch of crystal. Thank you, Marty. I would be remiss if I did not tip the old cap to our missing co-host, Liz Rhoades, the consulting distiller who is apparently sporting on a beach in Hawaii at this very moment. At least I hope she is. Yeah. So Liz is Spirit Safe Consulting. So if you want to find out more about that, there's a link down at the bottom. So check it out. I have Lou Bryson. I'm a whiskey writer, whiskey and beer writer, but I'm mostly talking whiskey here today. I was the managing editor of Whiskey Advocate magazine for 20 years, and I'm now a senior drinks writer for the Daily Beast website. Also do some other freelancing. I mentioned that because I just picked up a job. Hooray. And I also do a column for the ACSA in their magazine. My latest book, Whiskey Masterclass.
Oh my God. You can't have enough of them.
Still, and the classic tasting whiskey. Yay. Just a great set of books if you want to find out more about the drink we all love, whiskey. Back to you, Marty.
All right, thank you, Lewis. Every time Lou walks down the street, they always go, "Nice set of books." Lou. Hi, everyone. For today's show, I am drinking Chicago Distilling Company's very own Blind Tiger Bourbon for the first time.
I don't know why I barked for Blind Tiger. I don't know. Sorry.
It's made from the actual eyeballs of tigers. That's why they're
hence
blind.
the name. There you go.
These guys will spare no expense or pain to animals.
Oh, I'm sorry. That reminds me. I neglected to mention what I am drinking, which I always do. I have the new edition of Lux Rose Davies County. This is a 96 proof. Their bourbon with 2 mash bills, a wheated and a rye bourbon mash bill blended together and then finished in French oak. So,
wow.
fair amount of shit
Jay and
going on there.
Noelle.
Mhm.
You left Jay and Noelle in your desk there, didn't you?
It's
Yeah.
young.
Yeah.
It's young.
So, anyways, this week, kids, we have basically a couple that have been known as the Bogey and Bacall of
Wow.
Chicago Distilling.
Wow, is he really that much older?
Yes. Jay is 25 years older than Noelle.
And looking good with it.
The
I might
incredible,
add.
well, he
Yeah.
sleeps under a French fry lamp.
There it is. There it is.
Beautiful golden, that golden glaze. They're right in the heart of Chicago's very own Logan Square neighborhood. The owners, well, we're going to have to explain who actually owns it, according to the website. Jay, you might want to get on this because I think Noelle's building a case.
No,
It's
it's been agreed upon over the years, I feel like.
So, anyways, Noelle and Jay DiPrizio of Chicago Distilling Company, welcome.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Please, no crowd.
Yeah.
Keep a distance.
Keep it down.
everyone.
Keep it down.
Yeah.
Hi, kids.
Thanks for having us.
Hey,
guys.
Marty.
Well, it's good to see you. It has to have been maybe 2 years now.
Probably.
Nuts.
Probably
In
more.
the same
Yeah.
city.
Yeah.
Scary.
I know. And they're not that far from me at all, but I don't know. In this, you just kind of feel like you can't go anywhere. You don't know if anything's going to be open.
Yeah,
but
we
you
just-
guys are open, yes?
We just reopened in May to the public, so we were really excited to be able to do that. And it's good. You know, our neighborhood is evolving and changing, and a lot of people are coming up and we're like, "How long have you been here?" And we're like, 8 years.
How long have you been here?
Yeah.
Yeah, longer than you, apparently.
Yeah.
6 weeks. That's crazy. But you're right down the street. It's kind of a fun little thing because you're right next to what's that, Arcadia? The big bar?
Emporium Arcade, yeah.
Emporia, and then a few doors down from Revolution Brewing.
Hmm.
Ah,
Yeah.
So it's kind of a nice little strip. It's fun. It's gotten very crowded, and you guys were doing amazing business at night, especially on the weekends. You have a shuffleboard,
Oh, bocce ball we play. Yeah, we have bocce ball league. Yeah.
which was fun.
indoors?
We keep it
Yeah.
Italian, Marty.
Wow.
Yeah, huh? A little
I've
of
never
this.
seen indoor bocce.
Yeah, well, it's they have a very large floor, but we'll get into this.
Okay.
Guys, let's talk a little at first. Just give a little background on yourselves. How the heck? One, I want to know how you two met.
Oh, there it
Was
is.
it a cute meet? And then, how did you guys decide, especially as a husband and wife, that you go, hey, you know what, honey? You know what I'd like to do? I'd
You know,
like
it'd be
to
a
throw
good
almost
idea.
all of our money into a distillery. Screw the
Well, I
kids.
assume that's the way it was. Maybe she came to him.
Might have.
No, I just said
Uh-huh.
honey. I didn't say.
Oh,
I didn't say
okay.
who
Okay.
was talking to who. Mhm. See? Perception,
You're right.
Lou.
I'm assuming.
Mhm.
Noelle,
All
why
right,
don't you
dude.
handle this? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
no.
Your take.
Yeah. Well, I'm an interior designer, trained as an interior designer, and that's what I was doing before we started this. It was probably about a decade ago. We were having our first kid, and Jay did come to me and say, you know, I think we should start a distillery. And I go, you go for it. Like, have fun. So him and his brother kind of decided to partner up, and Jay, you know, the mastermind, through attending things like ADI and reading lots of books, and, you know, spending some time in Spain at a rum distillery, kind of decided this is what he wanted to try and do. The laws in Illinois changed enough where we could have a tasting room, and make a viable business plan of having kind of that, you know, urban distillery. So we did spend a lot of our money in throwing it at the distillery and our time. And I wasn't really intending on having much of a involvement in it because I did have my own interior design company, but that changed because someone needed to operate the distillery. So 8 years
I hope
later,
not to drudge up old grievances right here on a live
right.
show.
I
no,
love
8
that
years.
part.
8 years later, they were still going. I had our first son, though, or no, our second son was born the week we opened the tasting room to the public. So, it's been nothing but uphill since then.
Woo. So, all right then, Jay, what inspired you to want to open up a distillery?
Well,
Wait.
Yeah.
We missed the how you met story.
Yeah, there you go.
The cute meet.
I'm just gonna
Come on.
reel that in here a second.
Yeah, let's go back further.
Jay and I actually went to high school together. Yeah, we know each other.
Wow,
We know
okay.
each other from high school. We did not date in high school.
Oh.
We ran into each other at Lottie's, the bar in
Which has the
Bucktown.
body buried in the basement.
It probably does.
Oh, yeah.
They dug up the basement and found a body.
Yep. So we ran into each other again, watching some, college Final Four basketball or March Madness, and just
The real
made life
story,
after that. Yeah.
The real story, she called me an asshole that night.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I knew I was a shoe-in right there.
Yep.
How many years have you been married?
That's a lot, baby.
12
12
years.
years.
12
years.
marriage.
Dated what?
Mhm.
A couple years before that. So
Mhm.
that was it. Good old socialization at Chicago bars. That's how we met. That's
Yeah.
the
Hey, I
story.
dumped my wife, and we've been married for over 30 years. So you do dumb shit. What can I say?
Gee, that's nice.
It all
right.
matures finally.
So then years later, Jay, what are you, a telemarketer or something? Or you sell light bulbs and the
almost.
Yeah.
I do ad sales. So when we started this, I was always
Next best thing.
Yeah. The key to everyone's, I guess, jobs now, everyone's remote work. But when we started this, I was a remote employee for a .com doing ad sales. And I've kind of always kept that job. So I still work that, and then I kind of help out here and do the recipe development, et cetera. Noelle basically runs everything here with the staff. My brother not recently, 2 years ago, 1 year ago, moved
He got
up.
married a year ago. Yeah.
Yeah, he got married to a gal out in Minnesota, so he moved up there. I'm like, we decided like, you put your time in. We're running and off the ground. We're going. So go live your life for a little bit. So he kind of helps out every once in a while, but primarily Noelle runs it with our production staff. So it's fun. It's a quaint little business kind of as we get into it. And I'm sure you guys have experience talking with smaller craft distillers. The challenge is, all right, you can get to your plateau, right? And then what is it? Is it a cute mom and pop small business, or do you want to take it to the next level? So we've had a lot of conversations over the years with a lot of different types of, we'll just call them groups or investors, et cetera. And still kind of just sitting here doing our thing and watching kind of everything evolve with canned cocktails and the world change a little bit with a lot of barrel aging bourbon, et cetera. So things are nuts right now in the booze world, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like I'm sure there's someone sitting on your shoulder saying, you ought to put it in a canning line. You really ought to put it in a canning line.
Yeah. Well, we got into canned cocktails maybe 5 years ago now, Noelle?
2017.
2017.
Yeah. Launched
So it was actually funny because we worked with a local restaurant group who at that time was part of, I don't know what you call it at Wrigley Field, but the Cubs were doing they were bringing 4 all-star chefs in from the city. And we knew these guys, we got connected with them. They were like, hey, we want to do booze at Wrigley. And in our 1 or 2 stands, we get to actually sell nice booze. So they came to us, and it just so happened at the time we were piecing together how to actually can a cocktail, because we've been very familiar with keg cocktails. And, back then, only a handful of bartenders that knew how to do that had some keg cocktails on premise at some of these bars. Now I feel like every bar has them. But we basically kind of Frankenstein together some stuff from the brewing world, beer brewing world, right? Some stuff from our world, distilled spirits, and a lot of things from the, let's just call it carbonated beverage or soft drink soda world. And I went to a bunch of different food shows. We figured out, all right, here's how you put it together. So we're still on our same little manual canning line, just because it's doable. It's a little backbreaking now that we're a little bit older, but as we grow, and now finally the market is all about canned cocktails and RTDs.
Yeah.
Now we're looking at, a major jump in that, and some other people that we're trying to kind of figure that out with. But to your point, Lou, it's like we saw it And for a long time, we were the only ones in it, which was great because we got a lot of good shelf space. And now the trick for us is, how do you take that shelf space nationally, with these retailers?
Yeah.
We're local,
or at least larger regional, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, that's a plus for you being with Winebow, because Winebow does have that national reach. So,
yep, they can, and they've helped. As we bring in opportunities, and they have the ability to open up in some states. But for that also, like, there's got to be not a critical mass, but a decent mass or volume of cocktails going into that market to open it up. Just the costs that are involved for doing that. So
how are the regs in Illinois on that?
Around what, as far as doing it, selling it, consuming them?
I guess doing it and selling it.
Okay, so we can do it, no problem. Illinois has a different tax rate, so if you're under, it comes into the state taxes now that FET is pretty much a non-issue, because we're definitely under 100,000 gallons a year. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Different states have different rates. So like Minnesota has a much higher state tax rate on booze, but Illinois has a piece where if you're 14% ABV or under, you're a lower tax rate. So now we can compete a little bit with the FMBs that are out there.
Yeah.
And even, you would look for spirit-based High Noon, even though that's a major with Gallo, but that's kind of what we look at as the litmus test on price point and package size to kind of be in that world. So we kind of look at things, and Noelle does a great job with Sarah. I can never say Sarah's last name at Winebow. But they do a great job in really understanding what the market looks like, what the different retailers are here locally. And I mean, we're everywhere. Benny's has been great to us. A lot of the independent, bottle shops been really great to us, and we're getting, Whole Foods is always really good to us. We're getting more and more opportunities at a lot of these retailers. Now they're like, okay, you guys have been there for 4 years. Let's roll it out. And it's actually moving off the shelves.
Yeah, the challenge in the beginning was the price point people were willing to pay, because it was such an unknown kind of category. And now, you see things that are priced, $20 for 4-pack, which when we first started would have been unheard of. They would have said nope and shoved it back in our face. So it's the exposure is there, and I think you'll see a lot of things play out over the next few years.
I got to say, the number of $20 4-packs I see in the craft brewing world makes me think that people who are scared to price their canned cocktails at like even $16 for a 4-pack, like, what the hell are you scared of?
You're right.
There's plenty of stupid people with money out there. Go
get
get them.
And that's, I agree. And I think that's more recent. Because we started at $16.99 for a 4-pack, and Benny's took us on. We were there. It's like, all right. And then as we inched down, because it was us and Craft House and Cutwater, right? Locally, Cutwater is massive, and obviously Craft House is a
well-known brand,
big entity as well. But it came down, and I agree with you now, Lou. Like, there's price to push back up, right? So there's all different ways you can do it, and I think that's more thoughtful. What's coming in a canned or a packaged good or a RTD, however you want to define it, coming out there. And I agree. Like, I sat there, I look at the High Noon 12-pack, and I got buddies, way out in rural areas, and they're buying 12 packs of High Noon for over $20, which I thought was madness. But I'm like, okay. He's like, no, everybody buys that. I was like, all right, cool.
Well, you can order off your website, can you not?
It's for pickup. It's for just pickup only. So that was a pandemic thing. We are desperately trying for direct to consumer shipping, but that's we're facing the distributors of the world, and
that's been an issue with the Illinois Craft Spirits Association for a while. The Guild. You guys have all been kind of lobbying for that. And are you still vice president of that?
No, I just resigned.
Wow,
a new board.
She was the president.
I was president. Yeah, so I just resigned. We have
the presidents of that guild always resign.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. No, but we accomplished a lot of good things legislatively changing. For craft distillers in Illinois, we're kind of way behind the 8 ball when it comes to, what the brewers have been able to accomplish. We were always only able to serve our spirits where, a brewery could have a brew pub and serve wine and beer. So we created that ability and created a self-distribution ability. So, a lot of good things have changed. It's just, how do you reach your consumers, and direct to consumer shipping would be a nice way to be able to do that, especially there was such a long period where people couldn't come in and buy spirits or our products or visit.
I like how some states, they allow the guilds to carry each other's. Various distilleries carry each other, which makes sense.
Illinois is a little different. Like there's a competition kind of, law where you can't just carry like a certain, like we couldn't exclude everyone. We couldn't say we'll only carry Illinois beer. It just, for some reason, there's a law against that.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. It's dumb. Because you'd want to support.
Seems almost
the state would want you to help.
Yeah. And Pennsylvania is amazingly advanced on that, which is a surprise, because we can, any producer can sell any other Pennsylvania producer's stuff. It's wild.
It's one of the reasons why Illinois is losing. It's bleeding people.
I think there's other things besides just that.
Maybe.
I know. It's just one of many. There's no real enticements. All right, kids. So now you're in the middle of the beautiful, stylish, kind of hip and trendy Logan Square neighborhood. And when I say in the middle, you're almost in the middle of the block there in Milwaukee, almost. Which, to give people who haven't seen your distillery, this is where building is right up against building. You guys are all connected. So, what made you, obviously, other than a lot of foot traffic on Milwaukee Avenue, what made you think of that particular location? Was it cost? Was it, hey, it's near the house? Or
well, when we did open, there wasn't a lot of foot traffic. We were kind of one of the first, Revolution is down the street from us. He'd been open for years. He was truly the first business on the block that kind of changed that block. It, had to do with where we live. So we were in Logan Square. We had kids and knew we'd probably stay in Logan Square. So being able to walk to work was really important. And we had honestly looked for like a year, for a building, and kept driving past this bank-owned property that was about 5 different parcels, and kept calling the guy who was listing it, and he's like, "What are you guys looking for?" And we finally told him, and he's like, "Okay." So he went in with another guy and bought all 5 of those parcels, and then brought us in as a leasing in tow and helped us, renovate the building and get it up to code. And we have Emporium, which is an arcade bar on one side, Slippery Slope, which is like a late night DJ bar, and then dispensary a couple doors down, and lots of new restaurants and things like that opening. So it has become a very walkable street. And it was opening weekend, we had lines out the door and things like that. That's changed because in Chicago you're constantly competing with what's best and what's new and what's different. But we do have a core set of people who do come in, and our crowd tends to be a little bit on the older side, and sometimes you'll get a little younger in the later the night goes, but we close doors at midnight just to allow our staff to get home and things like that. But that's kind of why.
And you now you make a lot of whiskey, but and this is a whiskey show. But I wanted to feature this because your guys' gin is one of my favorite gins in the world. Finn's gin there. Now, Finn's your kid, isn't it?
Finn is Massimo Finn. So he's our oldest. He's 10 now.
Wait, say that name again.
Massimo Finn. So we're playing on the Italian and the Irish German side. Yeah.
Nice.
Massimo Finn. That's a great villain's name. I'm not plugging the kid in, but that would be a great villain's name. Massimo Finn.
You're not far off. Yeah, you're not far off.
But now, Noelle, is this your creation?
Yeah, Finn's is. We kind of Jay definitely has the passion for the whiskey and creating different mash bills and playing with things like that. I'm more on the botanical side of our business with our gin, absinthe, different plays on that. So the gin's won a ton of awards for us. Really, we didn't have it in the kind of lineup when we first started, but we had the tasting room that we were only serving white whiskey and vodka out of for the first 6 months. Just hard to make a cocktail out of just vodka and white whiskey. So
Yeah, you
gin,
can, but you can't make too many. Yeah,
no,
Yeah, yeah. A little limiting.
an
I
entire
get this
menu
stuff and
of them.
something or something else.
Yeah,
You can always tell people, hey, it's a twist.
yeah.
It's a twist on the old sidecar.
That's kind of what we were doing. Yeah,
Vodka.
you can only sell so many white whiskey old fashions.
Yeah.
Doesn't.
Now, Jay, your whiskey. Now you make a Blind Tiger bourbon and rye.
Yep.
Made from real tigers.
That's
And
it.
then, but also you do a crazy little thing, and I don't know if it's available outside of. It is, I think, outside the distillery where you have the various beers that you've distilled.
All right. Yeah. So that's part of our, depending on how this whole thing wrangles up, the American Single Malt Collection. So in Lou, I think you got some of ours really early.
I do have some of yours. I was trying to find them for the show, and then just I said, we're moving.
Yeah.
All the shit's packed up. I know I have them. But
Yeah. Those are young. I've got them up to about 4 years now. So
Nice.
the American Single Malt. So what we did is we do about 8 different mash bills. We'll call them mash bills, mainly from like brewer's malt, right? And some of the specialty malts. And so we started doing that.
Did I have a Dunkelweizen?
Yeah, Dunkel.
Yeah.
You would have had
That's
a
what I
Rauch
thought.
beer.
Yeah.
You would have had
Nice.
a stout and a one based off like a Belgian quad.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So
I
those
really like
all
that stout
really
one.
stood out. I think the one we did just a standard right up the middle brown ale, and people love that. And a lot of those, at the tasting room, those came out fast. We were selling a ton of them throughout the
Well,
local
they're
chains.
375s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they're expensive. We priced them expensive to slow it down and make sure they didn't go. And then they slowly started
have the
falling
little-
off.
The little glass
Glass
stoppers?
top.
Is that right? Yeah, that's what I thought.
So it slowly started slowing down, and we're kind of okay with that because the problem, we're still a small producing distillery, and like even with the bourbon and rye, we don't sell that much, right? And kind of our methodology on that is, I want it continually to all be made here. I've never done the sourcing thing or anything like that. So the less of it we sell, we're comfortable with that. The business, we understand what really flows and revenues at the business. So the older it all gets in the back of the house. So everything now is up to 4 years and a little bit older. So our methodology on when we bring out a new bottling is once we're almost out, we have like 10 cases left here. We pull down a single barrel and we bottle that out regardless of whiskey style. And then we fill the bottles with that. We don't claim any single barrel or anything on that. We're probably going to start doing that just because that market's nuts now.
Yeah.
But that's always been our mentality. Like, how long can we keep it racked, in the back and let it age without having to I guess, go out and find source product and do kind of that world. And we've looked at contract distilling, which is, 0 to 100. It's massive. It would drastically increase the scale, but that kind of goes back to, well, if you're going to go that far, you got to be able to sell all that, right? Like, I don't want to sit on all that overhead. So
Yeah.
small steps.
Well, let's talk about your bourbon and rye then too. What's so special about your bourbon other than it's delicious?
So that's the I appreciate that, Marty. I like it that you're cuddling it.
I know.
The face cuddle is always in demand. I miss you. I usually get a cuddle from you.
Come here, kid.
Yeah, come on. So the bourbon, that's a wheated bourbon. That bottle, I could just tell from the label right now, that's still yellow corn in there. That's yellow corn, winter red wheat, and just a 2-row base barley in there. So that's, let me get this straight. That's 70% yellow corn, 16 red wheat, 14% malted barley. We did switch. We did a tasting a while ago, 7 years ago at Benny's, and we had our farmer at one point sent us just a batch of white corn. He's like, here, try it, higher starch content. I'm like, all right, cool. We tried it, we aged it, and then we brought that out for a special tasting at Benny's, and people loved it. We're like, shit. So now we're like, all right, do we pivot the whole thing over? Which we have since then. So we've had white corn bourbon for, I don't know, 5 years now.
No, it's probably like 4. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's yellow corn you're drinking.
You have to drink this bottle to actually know what's in it. See, you can see the lettering there.
Oh, but you can't read it.
Yeah.
You can't read it. I can't make it out at all.
It's a different font color now.
That's
I
good.
think
You
we've
have to
changed
drink
it since. You live and learn.
Yeah. Now, you're a distiller. You've had a who's who, a cornucopia of whiskey, the upper echelon. You had Mr. Lou Bryson has visited your distillery. Dave Broom, all the way from England. Hello.
Yep.
Yeah. Didn't you have? Did Dave Pickerel help you guys?
Pickerel opened us up. Yeah, he consulted for us for a week. He basically took us, from garage and moonshine. He's like, all right, here's how you really do it, and help size all the equipment. Help size up all the equipment. It is that bourbon recipe outside of the grain type. It's still the same percentages that he backed us on the bourbon recipe, and I've changed the rye recipe since. And I've included more specialty malts, et cetera, because I'm trying to get after a certain profile with the rye, and I do it more on the grain than barrel finishing. But yeah, he came in. He was great. A lot of stories. R.I.P.
I was just talking about Dave over the weekend. Constantly he'd taste the whiskey. I could tell them what they're doing wrong. Yeah, you probably could.
Now, what with the rye? What I've always wondered ever since when I was working with Diageo and they had the 400th anniversary of Bushmills, and they're using that
Crystal malt.
What is that? The brewer's malt? Is that what they called it?
Crystal. It was crystal malt.
It was crystal.
Crystal malt.
Yeah.
I loved that. I loved it, and I was always on Bushmills case. Why don't you, if you got this around, because it was vatted in there, if you got that, why don't you release it? Have you guys ever tried, since you deal so much with the distilled beers? Have you ever thought about
Yeah.
Out there?
So a couple different ways to do it, right? Like I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, we could blend some of the single malt into the bourbon, and just because bourbon, right here, bourbon that's the category, right? If that's not on the bottle, yeah, it will sell, but bourbon's going to disappear in a week, if not shorter than that. So, you can do the blending route and vat it and blend it and bottle that off. And we've thought about doing some of that. And then I just thought, on new make, I could even mingle in some of the brewer's malts that I like to really play with. There's a lot of interesting ones in that Belgian quad inspired whiskey, Lou, that I think would be really fun to get in there. And I actually use some of those in the rye. So yes, we just haven't executed on it yet.
Let's talk about you guys being in the city again a little more, because when you guys moved into the city, when you started up, the city obviously was oblivious, and which is par for the city of Chicago, whether they're just oblivious to what a business is or what it does. You guys do stuff in here in this building. Okay, go ahead.
Here's your tax rate.
Yeah. But then, as they learned later on, it's like someone tapped them on the shoulder and said, "They make alcohol. Remember the Chicago fire, 1871? Yeah, you might want to talk to them." So tell us about what happened with all that, how you guys had to work with the city and the trials and tribulations of.
Giddy up, Noelle. You can take that.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we opened. So we started distilling in 2013. So we were probably one of 4 distilleries that were opening that year in the city of Chicago, and there slowly have been very few after us. It is true they didn't really have any code written specifically for distilleries, so since then they have done that. We've also done a lot of due diligence with our local fire departments in the city, and went through a whole audit process after we had already been open for a year with them and our architect, to make sure we had the appropriate safety features and things in the distillery. Since then, now you have to be you're deemed hazardous, so where you can actually open a distillery in this city is pretty limited. We get some people that just asking for advice or being like, we think we're going to open here. I'm like, no, you're not. Good luck. It's not going to happen. So, our location has been great for us, and that, we know we're fortunate to be able to have that spot, because it's not something that we probably would be able to do today, just right out of the gate. So you see a lot more, we talked about some people being more in the commercial kind of warehouse areas and stuff like that. And that's really where you have to be if you're trying to open up in the city nowadays. But, it wasn't without a lot of pain and suffering that we were able to keep our doors open and actually get them open in the first place.
That's usually what the par per course with dealing with the city.
Yeah. And I mean, there's even, the TTB's limitations on, how far you have to be from other residential and things like that. That's challenging in the city if you're not in a industrial kind of area.
If you're already set up.
Yeah.
Nobody told you prior. No,
yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. You know this big giant brick building that you just go in? Yeah. Somehow you got to distance it from everyone else.
The best part about it was navigating City Hall. Because jumping down there, if you're on floor 8, floor 6, floor 7.
Oh, you mean literally?
Oh, yeah. And everybody,
the...
you went to building and planning, zoning, fire, and everybody that you walk into. I remember the zoning guy. Our architect was with us, and he's sitting there. He's explaining, here's what it is. There used to be a self-certification program, blah, 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 blah. And the first thing the guy says with a real thick Chicago accent, he's like, I'm not signing that. Because he's like, we just need your signature on this. I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, here we go. Sorry, I'm not sure if it's right. But like, here we go. Then 2.5 years later, then he was like, go talk to so and so over there. You're just bopping around. It was pretty fun.
I talked to guys who've they did. They eventually opened up bars in Chicago, and just opening up a bar. I knew two women who were opening up a bar. It's a nice, simple, cute little bar. That's all they wanted to do. They almost went broke, and the city just strung them along for almost more than a year, and they're still paying for this empty space. The goddamn city, man. They just will come in. One guy will come in and say, "No, those shelves can't be there." Some other guy said, "Why'd you move those shelves? They were perfect where they were."
Well, the inspectors that come through, one guy, a handful of them come through, right? The task force, and one guy comes through and blah, 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 make some comments on that. They all share this sheet. And the other guy, who's the electrical inspector, comes through and he's like, what's this on here? I go, well, the other inspector told me this had to be fixed. He goes, he's a concrete inspector. He goes, why is he looking at the ceiling? I go, I don't know. Like, you go talk to him. Like, standard BS.
It's like the bosses in Cool Hand Luke.
Yeah, right.
They're doing in Boss Hogg's ditch.
Hey, it'd be easier eating 50 hard-boiled eggs than doing this again.
All right. Well, let's. Here's something too. We've Lou and I have chatted about with Urban Distilleries. Is your whiskey and all your spirits are made on site. They're matured on site. You're in a very heavily congested neighborhood. A lot of traffic there in Milwaukee Avenue, going down Milwaukee. Do you feel that there's any influence? I mean, if the cask is breathing, if your barrels are breathing in air, and you have Vienna Beef's big old semi truck stalled out front, blowing out exhaust, is that affecting your whiskey, or do you feel, fuck no?
Well, the local research from the beverage marketing consultancy says hot dog flavored whiskeys are going to be the next big trend. So,
well, then you're set.
Hey, we got the market cornered.
Bratwurst whiskeys in Wisconsin, I think, would be a big seller.
And I will say though, like we're in a brick building, so we don't get, and being in this part of the world, right, where we get -20 and 105 in the summer, we don't get the full swing of a traditional rick house, right? It is somewhat tempered back here. It's an all brick building, so in the wintertime we get down to like 55 at the coldest in here. In the summer we get well above the hundreds, especially when we're distilling. But we don't get the temp swings. As far as, I don't know what's like kind of dreamy about the Midwest, like breezes. I know, like they talk about salinity from some of the Scotch distillers, right? That are by the ocean and stuff like that.
Brine.
Brine. I would say we probably have little to no local wind terroir. No, I can't say terroir. I don't know what you call air.
No, actually, I kind of like local wind terroir.
Wind terroir. There it is.
I'm going to work that into an article. I like that one.
That aloe smell coming off the lake.
Wind terroir. Hey, that's it's as much bullshit or not as anything else.
Yeah.
Well, being from Chicago, kids, I think I've given you this idea. I'm a little disappointed you haven't taken the ball and run with it. But take a couple of barrels, go up to northern Wisconsin, find the resort Little Bohemia, where John Dillinger had his big shootout. Ask, hey, can we build a little rick house, a little one?
Mm-hmm.
We'll put barrels there. Beautiful area, very country, very fresh air up by Lake Superior. And then you bring it back, Dillinger's whiskey. Trying to look for bullets from the shootout.
Yeah.
In each bottle, one bullet, one casing.
No, we'll get a cease and desist on that for sure. It's a great idea.
I've got to run for the TTB head of it. Change the rules. They're no fun. They're no fun whatsoever.
They aren't any fun. They're no fun at all.
No.
Well, now you guys are open. You're open for biz. How many nights a week do you guys open?
We do 3 nights a week. Some weeks 4 if we're doing bocce 2 nights a week. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday generally. It's kind of
crazy talk there.
We don't have food, so we're just cocktails.
Maybe you should explain to folks not everyone is Italian.
Yes.
So why do you guys have bocce?
So there's a group of people who started the American Bocce Company here in Chicago, and they have like a patent for an indoor bocce field, I guess you could say.
Now it comes clear. Okay.
So the borders blow up, and we do 2 courts side by side, so we get 4 teams play. 4 teams playing at once, and then they do kind of tournament style, and they're all night kind of playing bocce, which is fun, and brings consistent traffic to the tasting room and a local vibe. So we like it.
Yeah, it's interesting. You said that your crowd, your clientele skews a little older, but a couple times, and maybe it was because I think it was a Saturday.
Yeah.
When I was in there, you had a lot of young people. I mean, 20-somethings, and they're all going crazy over bocce.
Yeah.
I thought, wow, that's kind of cool. They were treating your bar, and you have a very large bar in your I don't know, you call it a tasting room?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. But you serve cocktails.
No. Jay's trying to.
There it is. There it is.
Look at that.
Yeah.
There it is.
It's big. It's 15, 20 feet.
We got
it looks like a goddamn farmer's market in there.
Right? Those are boxes for cocktails for tomorrow. I think we're 50 foot.
50 wide.
Yeah.
And you guys have done a number of events. Is it open? Can people rent your distillery for weddings, bar mitzvahs?
We do.
Christenings.
Christening.
Oh, the bris?
Yes.
Bris. Circumcisions. Can they go in there and then dip the little fella in a little glass of whiskey, christen it, if you will.
Wow.
Oh, we lost
Jay. Oh, you probably hung up. Technical difficulties again, Marty. Operations.
Poor Jay.
No, we have done really well with events. We posted weddings. Our youngest son's first birthday was there when we were just opening. Cocktail classes, tours. Generally, we're still starting to get those kind of things up. The cocktail classes and tours up and running again. We're not even post pandemic. Mid pandemic, I would say.
Cocktail classes, is that what it?
Yeah, so we'll do.
What it sounds like.
Yep, cocktail classes that include a tour and kind of spirit education. So we haven't had any in a while because of the pandemic. We've gotten a lot of inquiries. We just haven't been able to staff a lot of the things quite yet. Jay and I
asked because I'm generally incompetent when it comes to making a cocktail.
Yeah, no, so they're pretty basic. We teach
I rely on the kindness of bartenders, Marty.
Wow.
I just have a black thumb when it comes to mixing drinks.
You are. I think of a streetcar called Inebriated.
That's
Now,
why I like beer. It's so easy. Just
Yeah.
God.
Your own little, it's all you're ready to drink right there.
That's
In
all I
Yep.
need. It's certainly ready to drink. As far as I'm concerned, this shit's ready to drink. Just, away we go.
Noelle, so you guys have hired though you've got a lot of local bartenders come in, right?
Yeah, I mean, our
And
staff has
do the
been
thing.
pretty consistent over the years. We, our current like head of the bar has been with us almost since we opened. So he's been with us 7 years, which is, I think, probably unheard of in the industry. And, we'd like to give them a little bit of ownership in the program and allow them, some flexibility. Jay and I aren't from the industry. That's not our background. So I think we have a little bit of a different mindset about how we approach things, which maybe people like, I don't know. But balance in life is kind of important to us. So we make sure that they have that too. And I think you've seen that over the last year as kind of an important thing. So that's good.
Well, and that brings another thing. So I always loved this. I actually love the idea that so many of these small distilleries, and actually I guess you could say the big distilleries were this way too, since they're so much family involved. But say just in Illinois, there's a lot of married couples. There's you two, and then Nick and Amanda over at Whiskey Acres.
Brothers.
Brothers.
Yeah, brothers, the Blum brothers. I always like the brother thing because it reminds me of Outlaws. Blum brothers, and the Gas brothers, and the Youngers, and the James boys. They all get together.
Yep.
But I mean, does that running a business? And I guess a distillery's no different than any other business a couple would start together. But it does it. Being a husband and wife in the distillery industry, is there any special issues that come up? How do you raise kids, around a distillery? It's just that is ever going to head, maybe we shouldn't bring them around the distillery.
There's certain things that come out of their mouth every once in a while. We're like, people probably think we're a little out there. But,
Mom, that gin was delicious.
yeah. Well, we recently got some of, I think it's Lagunitas, Jay, the hop water, whatever.
Yeah.
That's non-alcoholic, and our 10-year-old's like, this is great. It's non-alcoholic. There's no alcohol.
Now,
But yeah.
speaking of
that's
Chicago,
not even
they
like
know
removed
things
alcohol.
are all
No.
just-
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I lost track on that one.
God, if we had
Being
a
married.
distillery,
Being married.
the kids would be running around. Don't touch that! Don't touch that! Don't touch that! Don't touch! Because I
It's
didn't lose my
constantly-
mind.
I've gone
the
into
barrels were-
distilleries where they have the sign
Oh,
on the
yeah.
stills that
Yeah.
say, please don't touch, it's hot, and I'll touch it. So
I
I
remember being on a tour of an observatory one time, and this woman is literally spinning a knob and saying, "Is that okay to touch that?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, we leave that one disconnected actually, because everybody grabs it." I'm like, holy shit!
Our kids
No
were
question.
the only kids that had the word distillery in their vocabulary at a very young age, right?
Mhm.
So that was always a fun thing.
Yeah, but
No, I
imagine how
mean-
cool that's going to be for them later on.
Yeah.
Especially the boys, they're going to say, my folks own a distillery. Of course, all the other guys are going to say, well, you're in charge of getting us whiskey
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Give it up.
hopefully they're numb to it. Yeah.
behind the stadium tonight.
That could go really wrong. But no, we figured out our lanes and how the two of us operate, especially, now my brother's up in Minneapolis and not here in the day-to-day. Everything's gotten clearer and more simple. Noelle does this, I do that. And we kind of go. It's just when I want to do special
pretty
things
good.
like a special release. And then Noelle's like, well, we still have inventory of bottles that are printed. So we'll use those first before you want to do a different special release. But that just makes sense.
I say a lot
P&L.
of
This
no.
or that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
See, that's just it. That's that little component of a husband and wife team owning a distillery as opposed to maybe two brothers or just two friends. You know,
Yeah.
his wife always has that kind of veto just in a marriage. So Jay wants to create I want to create a new whiskey made out of sheep's blood. No. The wife.
You know, though, it might be a woman thing because Liz is always the one who's dragging the show back onto track.
Yeah, well,
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah.
Well, Noelle has already stated that she is kind of the brains of the operation.
There you go.
Keeping things in line, being able to work a camera on her computer.
Yep.
I just feel like Ed McMahon when you do that to me, Marty. That is very good, sir. I did not know that.
You'd make a great bearded Ed McMahon. I can just see next to Johnny Carson now. And he loved beer. He was a big beer guy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. So what, anything new on the horizon at Chicago Distilling Company? I mean, as far as any, and it's tough, obviously, coming off this past 18 months. I mean, to even think of
everything's new, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we were lucky. We were able, the canned cocktails allowed us to survive the shutdown pretty without too much of a ding in our distribution.
That shit on the fly like everybody else did.
Yeah. So it was a great partnership with our distributor right from the beginning when bars went straight to go before the to go cocktails were approved and things like that, and you saw off premise retail sales really starting to tick up. So that helped us and has allowed us to stay in a place of thinking ahead as opposed to kind of like, oh shit, what are we supposed to do now? So I'm sure Jay has a lot of ideas when it comes to whiskey and things like that. Jay?
I mean, whiskey, it's, what's out there right now. Like, it'd be fun to do a couple different proof expressions because we've sat at 90 for a long time, which back in the day was high. And now, you see everything that's out there now. And it's like, all right, if you believe these Facebook groups, none of these hardcore whiskey collectors, which I just like watching this stuff from afar. They want everything, 110 and above. So, I mean, that's always fun. But, once again, we don't have a ton of stock to be able to do that continually. So if, as we taste through those barrels, we come across a special one because everything's basically single barrel, but one that we feel like, hey, this should get noted. And really, it'd probably be in the single malt world because those differentiate themselves the most. It'd be that. And then cocktails and things like that, we're just continuing to expand. So, we worked on an exercise yesterday of some new ones we were thinking about and getting the formulas entered and go through that process with TTB, getting the formulas approved because, it's none of this stuff is defined like in the beer world, Lou, where it's like, all right, I can't just make a different style. It's got to go through. And it's really like a month and a half to, we could do it that quick, but really probably like a 3 to 3.5 month process to bring out a new RTD. At these times, then you're missing your sales cycles for the larger retailers, right? Because that's twice a year, so it's just kind of doesn't make sense to do it or not. So,
what kind of cocktails do you make?
So we do some classics. We do a G&T, which is always really well received. We've done a mule. We do a bramble. We do a bee's knees, a greyhound, and then one that's kind of fun called a transfusion, which is more like a golf course drink. That's out there. Yeah, take that how you will. It's People love that one. It's one of my favorites.
I just love the description right there. That's working for me. I like that.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I don't know if you guys ever see it, but I get all like the Drizzly reports now on what's selling on Drizzly. And I mean, they've pretty much, for my world, I feel like they've kind of killed market intel reports, right? Or buying those old marketing companies of what's selling right now because they sell you in the top 10 and it's out there and they're all dead on. So we don't do an agave spirit or, obviously not tequila because it couldn't be made here. But we've been looking at adding agave, right? But then you just got to get the price point on the agave right now. It's hard when you're trying to source that, And,
I mean, shit, it's expensive for them.
Yeah, so I get it. Margaritas sell more than anything. RTDs, makes sense. But is it worth doing it if you're,
right?
If the
this is not information that helps me.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So we're just going back to some classics and maybe, some more modern riffs on some of the stuff and just seeing what would make sense. So throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall, see what happens.
Well, but that's just it. How much throwing stuff at the wall can you do? I mean, just economically, you know what I mean?
Well,
I don't think you could do it there in the tasting room, can't you?
yeah, so that's the thing. So we'll watch and introduce new
Yeah.
cocktails at the tasting room because we have a draft program here. So
Oh,
those
right.
are ones that we've formulated and consolidate. So it's like, all right, if some of those take off, we start to see good sales numbers behind them, right? Or just feedback. Really, that's now the point of the tasting room is to kind of pull the crowd and figure out what's moving, what's not. And then we know those draft ones, we can, put those into cans. That's kind of where we go. It's the high proof stuff. Yes, you can can that. You need a whole different can and a whole different setup. And, we're not messing with that. It's all low proof stuff. So we have to work with Ball Corporation because we buy our cans direct from them. And then they test them to make sure the liner's not getting deteriorated, make sure it's under a certain chloride count, et cetera. So there are thresholds you have to be in for true shelf stability. So we mess with the tasting room and that kind of stuff. And if something kind of catches our eye, then we'll send the samples out and then Ball tells us a yes or no if it can go into a bright style can.
Can I ask just one question?
Yeah.
Sorry. While we're on the can thing, this is like, it's an old guy question. Does anybody just drink a highball, just like seltzer and bourbon?
Yes.
So I got to tell you, that's the canned thing I'm drinking the most of.
So that's what started us.
I really do. Because I can take them. I can throw like 4 cold cans in a little hand cooler and walk out the door. Whereas, otherwise I have to carry ice and seltzer and bourbon. Done.
Yeah.
I would just carry a bottle of seltzer and a bottle of whiskey.
That's why I'm beating you in the race to the subway, buddy. I got my little cooler and the 4 cans and I'm running. And you're like, I don't want to drop these bottles.
I find you at the bottom of the stairs of the subway.
You got a quarter? I need a quarter for another can of some other stuff.
So yes, Lou, I mean, yeah, totally. That's kind of what I was reading articles, in Japan and, back in the day before we actually did this. So like, you could buy highballs from a vending machine. I was like, holy shit. I'm like, how do we figure this out? We're doing a big can and a keg. And then we did that. So what we did is we took our old fashioned recipe and then we basically highballed that. So to, put a modern riff on it, right? And be like, hey, it's an old fashioned, it's got a great botanical build in the syrup and kind of what goes into it. And that was really successful. The one thing we found is we were looking at the numbers. We're like, well, shit, we're going to deplete all the whiskey that's going to go in the bottles. So we can't do that. So we hit pause on that. And then I just, we haven't gone back out and really talked to the MGPs of the world to source, 10 to 20 barrels. It's just something we haven't really wanted to get back into or investigate so we can make that old fashioned highball again. But we do have a half pallet of cans there that if we ever want to pull a barrel, we can knock out that highball again.
Cool. Special release.
Yeah.
What do you guys do with your barrels? Do you reuse any of them for another spirit or
mainly maple syrup?
With the gin we do in our bourbon, and then the maple syrup that we get. And my cousins are maple syrup, I guess, harvesters. I don't know, producers up in northern Wisconsin. So we get about 100 gallons from them every year that we throw in barrels and bottle. Sell out of the tasting room.
What size barrels are we talking?
10s, 25s, and then I don't know if we're going to do a 53 just because it's going to take so long for the maple syrup to extract that flavor profile. So 25s are the largest we've gone into.
Okay. Yeah. We recently gave some barrels to Eris Brewing, and they're doing, Jay worked with them. Our block is Eris Brewing lives across the street from us. Josh from Revolution lives up the block. So we're kind of this crazy row in Logan Square where we all live and collaborate a little bit too.
Yeah.
Great block parties.
Good block party.
See, that would be fun. I guess, so if they ever close down Milwaukee Avenue for a block party.
They do, yeah.
They do? That's
Revolution does an
Rev does
Oktoberfest.
Oktoberfest.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Nice.
see, that would be really cool. You guys couldn't serve whiskey there, though, could you?
We collaborate with them to do kegs, keg cocktails. So they buy everything and we help them keg it into a cocktail.
Damn.
And then they
Nice.
serve it. Yeah.
I was gonna say it would be kind of cool though too to have them serve whiskey or serve their beer that's been aged in your barrels.
Yeah.
I love
Schnapps. You got to do some schnapps for Oktoberfest.
There you go. Yeah. We do. I have a Marzen single malt. So that's when we sell we have to call it Oktoberfest because the TTB wouldn't allow Oktoberfest to be on the label. So I'm like, this is so stupid. So we switch the F and the B, and they're like, okay, now no one's going to be confused that that's not a bottle of can of beer. Or a bottle of beer. I'm like, all right, whatever.
See, this is the thing. Where do these morons come from? Oh, it's okay if you turn that F into a P.
Yeah.
It's all right, because then no one will know. It'll be secret.
It'll be just our little thing.
Yeah.
It'll just be something between you and me. All right. God damn them. That's all right.
That's it. It's our body, our governing body.
Yes.
Yup.
We're compliant. That's all that matters.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That is literally all that matters.
Now, do you guys have plans to do? You're going to be at Schmear's Chicago Independent Spirit Expo, though he doesn't call it that anymore.
Is he gonna email us? I haven't seen an email yet.
Yeah,
This is news to me.
Again, Schmear does everything very subliminally.
We'll be there. We'll be there for sure.
I was going to send something out to that for him, even though I'm not involved. I was going to do it for him to all the locals, because if I go to that show and there's very poor representation from Chicago and Illinois, I'm going to take Schmear by his ankles and just dip him in Lake Michigan. No, Marty, no, wait a minute, wait.
Well, what's he?
Very
Is
high
he
pitched voice.
I mean, he's probably sold his 5th brand by now. The guy's a machine,
Yes.
right? I mean, he
He has
builds them
got-
and he sells them.
There's talk of a Schmear distillery.
Ah,
There you go.
There's chatter. That's all I'm going to say.
there we go.
But I think the old Schmear distillery.
Hopefully not in Chicago because it'd be tough.
No.
No. I think he came up with the original idea of putting it in Kentucky.
All right.
He really wanted to stand out.
Brilliant. That's brilliant.
No one's there.
No,
Hey,
no.
if you can get on the trail like wilderness,
This is the
you know,
reason.
it's like
This
great.
is the reason we start up pharmaceutical companies in Philly and Jersey,
Mhm.
because you just steal all your talent from the people that are already there.
That's
That's
it.
smart. There you go.
Yeah,
That's kind of true, I guess.
it's true.
He's on to
What's a
something.
silly?
Awful lot
Well,
of
we're a
distilleries down in
startup, so it's we're not really paying top dollar. We're just a startup. We want you to have fun over here. Like, yeah, good luck.
We will give you some stock warrants that will be worthless even after we make it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, Noelle, how are things coming along in Illinois as far as distilling, and distilleries?
Distilling, I like that.
There, you know what?
Well,
The
big
number of
Action of
distilleries.
creating a distillery.
Yeah, the number of distilleries have it's doubled over the last couple of years. I think they're up to almost 50 licenses in the state, which is I don't know how many of those quite yet are operational, but you're seeing more and more breweries get into the distilling game for some unknown reason, because the tax rate is so unfavorable that I don't know why they would.
It's because they're bored. I understand a lot of them are just freaking bored.
Yeah. So you're seeing a little bit more crossover there. But legislatively, we've been able to make some changes over the years, which has been helpful to people wanting to get into the business and have a viable business plan. You know, you could stay true, like a true brewery and operate that way, or you could, blow it out of the water like some of the bigger ones and not worry about anything else. So there's a couple different lanes that you can go into if you do want to open up in Illinois. But you're still dealing with Illinois.
Well, how do you see Illinois compared to, say, like New York State?
I think New York has done a lot more. I think they've embraced kind of the farm kind of distillery. They have been open to the selling of other, I think, people's booze on site way before we were able to create that still pub kind of license.
Farm market thing was nice.
Yeah. So like that's some things that we've kind of gone backwards on that they've been a little bit more. I think they might have had direct to consumer shipping for a little bit, possibly. I can't remember if they had that approved or not, but they were a little bit more advanced than Chicago. We're always dealing with the distributors. They're kind of always worried about how large of a chunk craft distillers are going to take, even though it's no one has the kind of marketing or branding dollars that the large brands have. So
yeah, and apparently until Boston Beer started selling canned cocktails, they thought they were a bad idea.
Yeah.
I don't believe they think that is anymore.
It's always a bad idea until someone does it and they have.
That's right. Brilliant.
Yeah, it was a great idea. I thought I was just reluctant because I thought it was a bad idea.
Yeah.
Well, what do you guys? Is there still that permit you can get, like 15 days, if you guys wanted to sell at a farmer's market in Chicago or Illinois?
Only one of the licenses. I think there's like 3 things now. Only one of them, and I think it's the one that would have the still pub, could actually do a farmer's market, because it has to do with kind of retail sales and what that is.
Okay.
So like we did originally, but there was some gray area that was kind of in the law then, which then they said, like, you have to get this changed. So 8 years, we're trying to still change that, but yeah, only one section couldn't actually sell at a farmer's market.
Is this like stakeholders being defensive of their stake? Or
essentially, yeah.
There's a lot of it, but there's also, Lou, go through the Illinois liquor laws someday. You have absolutely nothing else.
Oh my God, man! And Pennsylvania's liquor laws have been a life's work for me. So I don't know if I want to add another one.
Shmir and I were going through it after we started the Independent Spirit Expo in Chicago, and it dawned on us about 2 years into it. We go, hey, are we
probably not legal?
Yeah, are we legal? And so we started going through all the laws. And it was, I go, oh, yeah, it's this law says, yeah, we're good. Wait, this law says we're not good. that contradicts this one up here. What the hell? They just come up with a law, they slap it in the books, and nah, I'm not going to check the old laws because I'm too lazy. That's basically it. Illinois, baby.
Well, or if you get big enough, then you can get a nice fine. And then it's collectible.
Yeah, God bless them.
Yeah.
Now, what would you guys recommend? We were asked this. Liz asked Lou and I for our recommendations last week on this. If someone were to start up a distillery, not just in Illinois, but anywhere, but if you want specifically Illinois or even more specifically Chicago, what would you guys recommend? Location and all the facilities within it. I mean, what do you see are keys to a successful little business of distilling?
You want to go first, Noel?
You can.
I think here's one thing interesting with being an urban distillery versus our peers and friends that are in more rural areas. Our revenue streams are much different. So being here in the city, yes, we get some people that come out because we are who we are and they want to try our whiskey, etc. But we get also a lot of just random foot traffic of people bar hopping. So we sell a lot more, let's just call it drinks or cocktails, right? We have more of a drinking crowd than somebody coming to get a special release bottle, right? That's distillery, that's tasting room only. So that's very different. Whereas I know, we brought them up, but like Nick and Amanda and those guys out at Whiskey Acres, they do a really good job. Hey, it's one day, it's Saturday, come out, here's a special release. And so they get more of a bottle chasing revenue or person who's coming out to kind of check it out, right? Like that's kind of my take on things. And then I would just go back through and look at your licensing costs for like liquor licenses, et cetera, like how much more expensive those are in different municipalities.
And Noelle?
I would just say make sure you have a lot of money. no matter what.
Please be a millionaire.
Yeah.
Multi
No, I mean, I think find the state that has the right laws for what you want to do. Are you a destination, like a out of like rural distillery, and you need to be able to sell bottles and have enough of a limit to be able to do that, how much you can sell on site, versus are you going after more of a brew pub kind of, we have a restaurant and our revenue is driven from that kind of concept. What are you trying to go after? Because distribution is pretty hard these days. It's hard to get with a distributor. There's a lot of competition out there, and trying to grow your business that way as a small producer, if you don't have a lot of money behind you, is challenging. So kind of decide what you're going after. And how you're going to make your money, and kind of stick to that.
And we're actually getting a lot of inquiries just from, other entrepreneurs that want to buy 8 to 10 barrels of source booze. And then they want to basically store
they want someone to bottle it.
Here. Yeah, they want us to warehouse it for them and then bottle it, and they can create a brand. So you're now getting, these entrepreneurs who are like, oh, I love whiskey and I want to do, my version of a barrel-aged bourbon or rye, et cetera. And it's like, all right, well, is that realistic, right? Like, and where are you going to sell that? And I don't know. It's just hard. I get it. I see that aspect to it. And that was us back in the day, right? But now it's like, well, look out, because the big boys have a lot of great stuff, and if you've got a variation, I guarantee you they have 3 variations that can beat that variation, so it's interesting out there.
Well, yeah, and I think that's another good point that Jay makes, is a lot of people are just going at it from a marketing standpoint. Someone else is making it, someone else is packaging it, and they're just actually a branding company and they're marketing it and selling it. And those people are also hard to compete with, because all their dollars go into that marketing, which, you don't have the blood, sweat, and tears of actually cranking out a still every day and packaging and stuff like that. So, there's other ways to skin the cat, and it just depends what you want to get out of it and what you're looking to do.
Well, what do you guys see as far as, we were talking about breweries last week, and how a lot of breweries, got tired of competing for the tap handles in so many on-premise accounts that they've kind of made themselves, here we are, we're a destination place. Come to us and buy in bulk if you want. Yeah, take it home. Just don't be a bartender smuggling it over the Wisconsin, Minnesota border to serve in your bar. You might get in a little trouble. But I mean, what do you think about that for a distillery? Do you think a distillery can exist on something like that? On that,
for sure. Yeah. I mean, I think you can. Like, look at, Whiskey Acres when they do a limited release of, their green corn or whatever they have coming up, and they, sometimes it's more profitable, obviously, for them to sell it out of their tasting room as opposed to really fight for shelf space or, hit up all those accounts to try and sell it in, and you build a brand that way. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think that you'll see more and more distilleries going that direction, just because, like I said, distribution is such a challenge when you're competing against the big brands for shelf space and bar, a well and placement or something like that,
Well, the tourism, I think there was one in Florida, and at some point on one of the newsletters, whether it was ADI or ACSA, the guy said the number of visitors they had per year, and it was astounding. It was a couple 100,000 people that passed through their tasting room just because they were there. Yeah.
We've been dealing with Lost Spirits Distillery, just made the move from LA to Vegas, and they're expecting 1,200 visitors a day.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, that's crazy for a small distillery. If that's 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Well, you put a couple of slot machines in the lobby. What else are you going to do?
There you go. Yeah.
A couple of dancing girls out front.
Free lunches.
And dancing guys, Marty. Come on.
Dancing guys too. Oh, yeah. They're from down under guys.
In the world.
Get those in there. Sure. With little Glencairn glasses on their G-strings.
There you go.
Strategically.
I can see everything, and it's smashed in there. Terrible visual.
Oh my God!
There's a little fluid inside, so when they dance, the fluid's moving.
So on that note, we should probably be wrapping up. It is that time.
On a high note.
What?
We We have next week. We have Donald Snyder from what is it? Whiskey Resources, I think.
Maybe. I
Former.
thought
I
he
think
was
he was
kicked out
former.
of there, but we'll find
Yeah.
out.
Oh, is he out? That
No,
he sold
I don't
that?
know.
No, I think he sold it, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he sold it
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well,
for
I guess I'll have
$2
to.
bucks. So Jay,
Good
if you're
man.
still looking
Good
for those
man.
investors.
But he
Yeah.
does have. I mean, he's got a lot of information on what we were
Yes.
just talking about. How
Mhm.
to start, how to size, how to do it. So we'll be sure to let Liz loose on him. Get those needle-nosed questions asked, and that's what we'll be
Right.
doing next week.
We're gonna have Liz Rhoades coming back after a fact-finding mission to Hawaii, where she's
Yeah,
been
she's
distilling
gonna be
sand
fired
and
up.
pineapples on the beach. She's been seeing what the sun-tanning lotion effect on a distilling scientist, how it affects the whiskey. So we'll see.
And it works. I'd like to see
Guys,
that report.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Well, you
Yeah.
guys be good. I'm gonna come
Yeah.
down and visit you guys as soon as you're at your distillery. Just send up a little bat flare.
I really do need to get out to Chicago. I mean, like, not to do research or anything. I just want to go.
Whiskey
So-
and book signing at the Chicago Distilling
There we go.
Company.
Oh, we were
Heck
supposed to
yeah.
do that right before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, I was supposed to do a
Pandemic.
lot of shit.
And
I still have a garage full of books. I can do that.
Yeah.
So,
So do
all
I.
right.
I got a bunch of garage full of your books.
Thank
So many.
Guys, thank you.
you.
Marty,
Thanks,
see
guys.
you next
Like
week.
it.
Bye.
Everyone
care.
behave.
Always good.